First thing about this book is that it is not YA. It is definitely new adult, if not adult. It has violence, it has spice, it has graphic, it has rude language, it has it all. So if this is a book you are considering for an under 18, I would highly advise against it. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining today, and also thank you for joining my first ever book review, which I'm so excited for, also kind of nervous, so be nice in the comments. As you guys saw from last week's video, I'm brand new to Book Talk, so all this is quite scary and new and really exciting, but give me time. These are as much for me to figure out what I'm doing as for you to figure out whether you like my style. But anyway, I digress. I thought I'd start with a book review of a series that I've just read, and I'm now reading the prequel slash spin-off series that goes with it. Also, if you can hear these little pitter-patters, that is the dog running about, because of course she is now that I've started filming. So anyway, the series that I've just read is the From Blood and Ash series, which is by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I know this has been like a really popular book recently, especially on Book Talk and just in the general bookish community. It's a really popular book, so I thought I had to try it. I'm currently reading the spin-off slash prequel series, which is called A Shadow in the Ember, and I'm reading that on my Kindle. But obviously I don't have the physical copies of this book, which is a real shame because I really wanted to show you guys it, but I'm thinking I might like order the first one at least. So I've got at least one, and maybe each time I do like a book order I'm gonna order another one because they're quite expensive. Even my hardbacks I'd be a bit like anxious about spending that much money, so I'm gonna collect the physical copy edition slowly. Anyway, let's get on to the book review because I could just chit chat for ages. So I'm going to be quite spoiler free in this review because I know that sometimes people like to look at reviews to decide whether they want to read a book. So this is going to stay quite spoiler free. I'm trying to keep it quite vague because this is a 4-part series that I'm reviewing in one video. So it's more just giving you guys ideas of what to expect and talking about little things like that rather than talking about in-depth stuff about individual books. If you guys do want more individual like each book reviews, comment down below and let me know, and that's a video I'd be more than happy to make. I love this series, so definitely do let me know. I'm going to start with a basic synopsis. The basic idea of the story is we follow the Maiden, which is a young girl called Poppy who is reaching her ascension. Now in this world that she lives in, on your 19th birthday, the second sons and daughters ascend to basically become immortal. They become beings that are comparable to gods. And Poppy is the Maiden. Her ascension is tied into the ascension of the next generation of the Ascended. So she's a really important, almost holy figure that cannot be looked upon, cannot be touched, cannot be spoken to, and is seen almost as the pinnacle of purity and holiness. Poppy has a zest for life that is very, what we could call, unmaiden-like, and her best friend is always there to support her through her trials and tribulations. She gets a new royal guard, a man named Hawk, who begins to awaken things in Poppy that she's never felt before and makes her begin to question everything about her life. And basically this story is following her journey, her development, and her progress towards her ascension. Now first off the bat I'm just going to say you don't find out much about the Maiden and the role that the Maiden plays in the sense of the backstory of it all for the first book. That is kept very vague and it's quite intentional. So if you're reading it and you're struggling and maybe you're looking to see whether the rest of the series are worth reading, definitely stick out because it just gets better and better and better. And if you guys wait until the end, I will give it my star review out of 5-star review, and I'll let you know at the end, so watch all the way to the end of this video if you guys want to see what rating I give this series. A big thing for me within a book is storyline and the writer's ability to really capture me and grip me with the story. I feel personally a lot can be forgiven if you've got a really good storyline, and I definitely feel that Jennifer Armentrout did this with this series, with the first book, all books. It is chef's kiss. Stunning. I absolutely love it. So it's, if you're like me and you're really into that storyline vibe, then this is a series for you. What I love in particular is that I really feel that within this book you follow Poppy's journey and Poppy's growth and development. And I think the writing style actually throughout the books reflect that. As she develops more, so does the writing style. And I think that was a conscious choice because it feels very deliberate, and we really follow her development and her understanding of the world that she is in, that she's really sort of been quite sheltered from her whole life. Also, I will say this, she's very good at making you hate characters. Like, I felt like with the first book, there were definitely a couple of characters that I didn't like, that I think I was supposed to like. It wasn't that I didn't like them, it's just that I had no strong feelings for. And I do think that for the second book onwards, that actually really changed and developed, and I really began to care for the side characters, but there were a couple that I didn't care for in the first book, and I don't know whether that was intentional or not, but if that's something that irritates you, don't worry. Like, throughout the second books and the third book and the fourth book, it really, you get invested. But one thing she's been good at from the start is making you hate characters. There are multiple characters within the first book alone that I would gladly strangle. Like, they are infuriating, they are horrible, she's written them so well that I'm almost slightly concerned, but I love it. I love being able to invest in characters. So although maybe for the first book she doesn't necessarily grasp you with the love of characters, she definitely makes up with it for the hate of characters. And as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, she uses a lot of vagueness within her plot lines and a lot of things not fully making sense and not necessarily sitting how you think they should, but it's all for plot. Like, she does really, really well. I think there were definitely things when I read it a second time where I was like, that makes so much sense now. Like, I'm not annoyed that I don't understand what's going on, because yet again I do think it links into this idea that we're seeing it from Poppy's point of view. It is first person, so it works. It just is something to bear in mind, that if you are someone who gets irritated by vagueness, it is in this series, but it is worth it and it is worth sticking out. She does take the stereotypical fantasy building blocks, I would call them, and deliver them in a different way. So for example, we have our typical, what I guess you could consider vampires, you could consider immortals of some way, you can consider kelpies and mermaids and werewolves and all these different creatures that we are very familiar with in a fantasy setting, and she takes them and delivers them with a new twist, with a fresh twist, where they are not another vampire and another werewolf, you know, like it's delivered differently, which just allows for it to feel fresh, which in a market that is as saturated as fantasy is, I think that's something that's really important when writers do that, because it gives us something fresh to hold on to. And she does it very, very well. And even though a lot of these stereotypical building blocks are, to be honest, quite YA in their delivery a lot of times, like when you think of werewolves and vampires, most people's minds go to Twilight, go to YA, go to young adult fiction. But this book is definitely not YA, I'm gonna throw that out right now. This series definitely is spicy. It has violence, it has graphic, it has spicy spice. It has everything that is more expected of an adult. It has themes of abuse, it has so many difficult and dark themes, presented very, very well and actually very, very nicely, but yeah, not for under 18s. I'm just gonna draw that line right there. Pacing of the books in general is just, to be honest, quite fantastic. Like, I noticed that I just wasn't putting them down. I was reading and then straight on to the next one. I did have all 4 bought on Kindle, like ready to read, so they were very, very captivating, and I absolutely loved, this isn't a spoiler, don't worry, but the very last sentence of the first book is the very first sentence of the second book, and I just thought that was just so beautiful. Like, it was done so well. It really made you feel like the books flowed and there wasn't like a, you know, a break in it all. It really flowed so beautifully, and it just, oh, I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm so excited. The 5th book actually comes out in July, so I will be reading, reviewing, uploading so much about that book because I absolutely love this series. This pacing was just beautiful. It really ebbed and flowed really nicely, and it kept you engaged, and the fight scenes felt meaty, didn't feel forced, but the slower scenes also didn't feel awkward and stumbly and like you were just waiting to get on to the next bit to happen. I think their banter and the way that their relationship is presented with this annoyance and these nuances feel very, very real. They don't feel quite so much like a stereotypical book relationship. You know what I mean? Like where it almost feels not forced, but a little bit too rounded and polished at the edges sometimes. I think even Sarah J Maas does fall into that sometimes, where even these characters that do irritate each other or do sort of call each other out, they're too polished, whereas I feel that the relationship that Jennifer Armentrout has created with her characters feels a lot more raw and real and something that you could potentially experience yourself, which in turn allows you to feel very connected to said characters. I also love how instead of putting Poppy down for being powerful, all the characters around her that are supporting her are encouraging it and, you know, being turned on by it or being excited by it, being proud of it, and really encouraging that feel of female empowerment. And, you know, she is this character that despite everything, she's strong from page 1, and that is something that we don't see too much of sometimes. Like, even with her veil, like the veil is suppressing her, but she's still this strong character and she's still fighting. She's here, she's present, and it's not as subdued as sometimes some books can be, which I like, but I do also like to see sometimes books like this where she is a bit more powerful and a bit more, you know, she's got some sass, she's got some pizzazz, she knows who she is, sort of thing. And so this kind of brings me to the end of my first review. I know this wasn't necessarily the most in-depth review, but this is, like I say, my first review. I'm figuring out how is best to sort of present these, and obviously this was a full series overview, which is a little bit more difficult when you're not doing spoilers because you can't talk in depth. There's so many plot twists in this book, it's fantastic, but I can't really talk too much about them without giving a lot away. I will say this series is 5 stars, and that is hands down so easy to say. The only real criticism I have of this series is the first book. I feel like at points there were ways I didn't like the writing style, and I felt it was a bit too naive and a bit too almost YA in its approach, but I do think that was because, looking back, we were following Poppy's journey and Poppy's experience and how she sees the world. So once I sort of understood that, I was a lot more forgiving of it, but the storyline was so phenomenal that really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't care. Like, this story was amazing. It's so good. I gobbled them up in about 3 days, all 4 of them. I literally sat and like binge read. I was reading 8 hours a day. I think I got them during some time off as well, so I wasn't going to work, so I literally sat and read. I couldn't put these books down, that's how fabulous they were. Basically, obsessed. Loved it so much, and I think you guys will love it as well. It is much cheaper on Kindle, so you guys can purchase it on Kindle, but you can still buy it. You can buy it on Amazon, Waterstones, I'm sure you can buy it on Barnes & Noble and stuff. Her website actually links everywhere you can buy it, so it's available in paperback if you want it. Do be aware it's a little bit more expensive than your usual paperback, but it's worth buying. Definitely worth buying. But anyway, thank you so much for watching my first ever book review. Please be nice in the comments. Like, I love some constructive criticism. I love hearing what you guys think as well. Like, if you've read it, what are your opinions on it? What do you feel you liked? And do you agree with everything I said? Is there something that you maybe don't agree with? I'd love to have a chat in the comments down below. And yeah, if you haven't already, please make sure you have subscribed, you turned on those notifications, because I will be posting weekly. I have my next video lined up, ready to film, so we are go. So make sure you never miss an episode, and until my next video, guys, happy reading. Bye!